Welcome back. Day 6 of Operation Epic Fury. The Pentagon releasing new video showing an American submarine entirely taking out an Iranian warship off the coast of Sri Lanka. This is the first strike of its kind since World War II. The U.S. military deploying Lockheed Martin's long-range precision strike missile for the first time in combat against Iranian targets. The Gulf Cooperation Council, meanwhile, calling an emergency meeting today on how to deter ongoing Iranian aggression. It comes as Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said yesterday the U.S. will take complete control of Iranian airspace. Meanwhile, back in Washington, the Senate voting to reject a war powers resolution that would have blocked President Trump from ordering further military strikes without congressional approval. The measure needed a simple majority to advance. Republican Senator Rand Paul voted for it, while Democrat John Fetterman voted against it, as he first told me that he would. The House is now expected to vote on their own version today. Joining me now is Arkansas Congressman French Hill. He is the chairman of the House Financial Services Committee. And, Mr. Chairman, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thanks so much for being here this morning.
You bet, Maria. Good to be with you. First,
on this war powers resolution, are you expecting it to fail in the House? Where is that going?
I do believe we have the votes to block the particular war powers resolution that we're considering. Let me tell you, it says withdraw all troops, all ships, all theater and operations, and that's right in the middle of combat operations. So I think it's ill-timed, ill-conceived. And let me remind all the American people, under the War Powers Act, the president can conduct Article II operations in the defense of American interests, and he has 60 days to do that. President Trump fully complied with the War Powers Act by consulting with the Gang of Eight in Congress well before the actions of last weekend, and then continued to consult. And yesterday, the House and Senate, or day before yesterday, actually, the House and Senate both had extensive, well over an hour classified briefings from Secretary Rubio, Secretary Hegseth.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the Gang of Eight, because it's true. I mean, cannot be underestimated. The president and Secretary of State Marco Rubio spoke with the Gang of Eight, and one of those members, the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, Rick Crawford, joined me yesterday on this program, and we talked about the impact of all of this on China. I want to get your take on what he said to me yesterday. Watch this. Congressman, what about all of those drones right now in our arsenal that China made? Can't they see everything that's in that drone that we can see since they made the drone?
Well, there is the potential for that, and that is why I've been, for years, been very strong advocate for, decoupling from these Chinese-made products. The drone manufacturing has moved so fast. Heck, I've got companies in my district that were engaged in this 10 years ago, but they were outpaced by the Chinese. They wanted to be able to offer these products to American farmers, but they couldn't keep pace because the technology changed so quick, and they were outfunded. And they had to go a different direction with it. So now we're reliant on these Chinese drones. We can't continue with that type of footing.
Do you believe this operation in Iran is as much about China?
It's a very tenuous relationship. I know that they try to characterize this as an affable relationship, and I get it, because that personally they may have an exchange that may be favorable. But broadly speaking, the Chinese Communist Party is not our friend. This attack on Iran was not an attack on China, but it most certainly is an impact on China.
Congressman, what do you want to say about that? Because obviously the sort of standstill that we saw, and I know President Trump is trying to loosen that up in the Strait of Hormuz, has impacted China and its ability to expect a free flow of oil to China at this point, right?
It's right. I mean, China is squarely caught in the middle here. They buy all of Iran's oil, all the currency that Iran has earned under the intense maximum pressure sanctions by the Trump administration is coming from China. And it's a terrible triangle of death, with China providing that money and Iran providing technology, ballistic missiles, and support to Ukraine's illegal invasion in Ukraine. So you see that death triangle.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the United States Navy's security in the Persian Gulf absolutely benefits the Chinese state, because they are so dependent on Middle East oil. So that puts them in the middle, And it shows you the importance of still U.S. naval operations in the Persian Gulf, not only just to our own regional security and the Gulf Cooperation Council area security, but also even to countries far, far away like China.
Mr. Chairman, let me move on to your work on the digital assets legislation. President Trump the other day called for banks to engage constructively with the crypto industry regarding negotiations around the Clarity Act. And he criticized their attempts to undermine the Genius Act in a tweet. He said the banks should not be trying to undercut the Genius Act or hold the Clarity Act hostage. They need to make a good deal with the crypto industry because that's what is in the best interest of the people. It suggested that the administration may be less aligned with the major banks and their opposition to the stablecoin yield pass-through. I want to get your take on that. Where do we stand? Do you believe the president will want to see crypto pay rewards for money held on crypto platforms as opposed to the major banks?
Well, I want to thank the president and his top AI crypto advisors, David Sachs, Patrick Witt, for engaging over in the Senate and trying to find a legislative solution for them. You know, we did that last year in the House. We got 78 Democrats to join the Republicans, and we passed the Clarity Act and the Genius Act with substantial margins, bipartisan. And in those bills, we had the two principles. One, that stablecoins would not pay a yield. Why? Because we view it as just a new payment token to be used on a blockchain. It's not meant to be a bank. It's not meant to be something that it's not. And so on a bipartisan basis, that's been in the Genius Act. So the Genius Act does not say that you can pay a yield on a dollar-backed stablecoin, whether you're issued by a bank or issued by a non-bank. So this issue of rewards comes up. And my best advice is that that's handled in the rulemaking by the Treasury, where bank and non-bank issuers of a dollar-backed stablecoin are treated identically when it comes to sales practices, marketing strategies, in terms of does one have an advantage over the other? Because banks certainly have packaged products and provided incentives in their own business. So I think the non-bank dollar-backed stablecoin issuers and their partners and exchanges, they want to have a similar ability to package products, not unlike the banks. I think we can find a solution here.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, and I understand that this impasse centers on whether these digital asset exchanges should be allowed to offer rewards programs and pay money to those who have money on the crypto platforms. But I'm wondering if, you know, companies like Coinbase and others are coming up with new ways to pay those rewards, like in a backdoor way. Because one of the issues that came up was the idea that these companies want to pay rewards if you're in quote unquote a membership program, right? I mean, I spoke with Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong about the issue, and here's what he said recently. Watch this.
This stablecoin reward issue is very important, and I think President Trump has showed incredible leadership here, creating a strong crypto agenda. We just got the Genius Act passed into law, which actually did enable stablecoin rewards to happen. The banks had their own concerns, and we reached a good outcome in the Genius Act. And now the banks really are coming and trying to undermine the president's crypto agenda. They're trying to protect their own profit margins, taking money out of the pockets of hardworking average Americans and putting it into the coffers of these big banks that are hitting record profits. And so our view is that there should be a level playing field where banks and crypto companies can lean into stablecoin legislation as an opportunity, and that includes paying rewards to Americans so that they can earn more money on their money.
See, I mean, Congressman, a couple of things here. On the one hand, isn't it in Coinbase and the crypto platforms' best interest to keep delaying this, delay? Because as we're delaying it, they are actually paying rewards. Isn't there a loophole in the Genius Act because of a third-party player that enables them to actually pay a reward right now? So they can delay all they want and still pay rewards, even though what you just said is supposed to be what we're talking about, whereas everybody's on the same playing field, nobody's going to pay rewards. So there's that, and number two is this backdoor idea that the crypto companies can say, okay, we won't pay rewards, but if you're part of a membership program, you're getting a reward. And then the third thing I want to ask you about is the fact that there's not the same playing rules. I mean, you look at any bank, you go to any bank, and we see very clearly it says FDIC insured, right? They have deposit insurance. We know a bank is FDIC insured. You don't have that with the crypto platforms, do you?
No. Well, then the dollar-backed stablecoins are simply backed by those FDIC-insured deposits or U.S. Treasuries as their backstop. And that's why I say the whole purpose of this was to create a dollar-backed payment stablecoin as a token to be used in payments on a blockchain. It wasn't per se to create a whole new financial device beyond that, and it to be used by both fintech companies as well as banks. Here's my view, Maria. We need sales practice on a level playing field. And secondly, I think when banks tokenize deposits, some of this issue will go away.
Okay, Congressman, thank you for clearing that
You
up.
bet.
I know there's a lot of nuances here, so I'm glad that we talked about all of that, and we appreciate your work on this, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
You bet. Thanks, Maria.
All right, Congressman French Hill on Capitol Hill. We'll be right back.